GamerGate is destroying the federal government. Oh, Salon, I do love it when you speak dirty to me, but please, back off a little bit. I can only grow so hard before my entire circulatory system is endangered, and we are getting there. This is a pretty brilliant article, I can't lie. What Elon Musk's war on federal workers owes to GamerGate. Oh, brilliant. You know that's a tiny, completely irrelevant little thing that happened years ago, the thing that didn't achieve anything and didn't matter at all, yet is brought up again and again and again in these people's memories, almost as often as they invoke the names of Hitler. Yeah, that thing, it's apparently responsible for the destruction of the federal government. The long ago troll tantrum from video gamers upset by women kicked off the culture wars for the stupid era. Man, all we wanted to do was hate women in peace, and we ended up destroying the federal government. We are at some real other side of the earth. A butterfly flaps its wings and a tornado emerges now, aren't we? Oi, oi, oi. So, by the way, before I get completely lost in this thing, the thing that's currently going on is that Musk has, in accordance with the Trumpolophagus' wishes, started to cut in federal workers. Trump backs Musk as he roils the federal workforce with demands and threats. Oh my god, demands and threats. What is he saying? Prove your loyalty to Trump or we'll come and pluck out your toenails. Well, he sent them an email asking what they'd gotten done last week. Sounds like a reasonable question to me, honestly, but hey, details. And you might think this would be a simple enough thing, right? Because, okay, what did you get done last week? Like, what did you do? And he's not even saying that it needs to be something amazing. He's not asking if you figured out how to launch a rocket to Mars last week or anything. It's just, what did you do? What did you actually do? Because I need to know. And if you don't respond, well, I'm kind of gonna have to assume that you're not there because you're not responding to, well, another federal government entity basically going, hey, what did you do last week? You know, it seems reasonable enough. And if you did do literally anything last week, just answer with that. How difficult could it be? And if people didn't do anything last week, or indeed aren't there and still collecting a salary, then firing them should be easy, right? Well, actually, not quite. See, there's some problems here, of course. Federal workers cannot be fired at will, you see. Now, military personnel can be, or fired, they can be replaced, dismissed, etc., as they work at the pleasure of the president. However, this is where that old Norwegian saying comes into play yet again. Do not put the goat to watch over the oats, for whilst you can be fired for damn near any reason, well, the federal employees have gone to great lengths to make sure that they have a wide variety of special protections unique to them that make sure that they cannot be fired at will, not without substantial justification. Imagine that. Hey, you know what? I figured that maybe we should make it so we can't be fired. Wouldn't that be good? And then everybody else who worked at the same place agreed that they couldn't be fired. What do you know? It truly is quite remarkable. Oh, and just to point out as well, in case you're thinking that you can't ask this stuff, surely all the federal employees are doing loads and loads of very valuable things. Yeah, This was apparently running at the Federal Department of Housing and Urban Development's cafeteria this morning. I don't know about you, but I personally view this as pretty solid evidence that there's at least one person out there in federal employment that's doing something entirely different than what he should be doing. But hey, It is also remarkable how we've arrived at the point where Salon.com is now going, no, don't go after the federal employees. No, you can't reduce the size of the state. What are you doing, you evil man, you? God fucking help me. Anyways, article. One of the most unnerving aspects of billionaire Elon Musk's illegal rampage through the federal government is how stupid it is. To be sure, the most important issue is that it's reckless and evil under the false auspices of efficiency. He's slashing workers at random and targeting entire departments that happen to have the power to hold his business accountable for law breaking. You mean the one where he, what was the illegal workers one? Where he had to employ illegal workers, and at the same point, he also was barred from employing illegal workers? That one? The Catch-22? The thing that was dug up pretty much uniquely and only to, try and persecute him? Oh well, details. But the sadism is accompanied by a churlish glee that reads far more like a 13-year-old boy's failed attempt at humor than what one would expect from a 53-year-old businessman and father of 12. The name of the initiative is Department of Government Efficiency, mostly so it can be abbreviated to Doge, a silly meme from 12 years ago, turned into Musk's favorite cryptocurrency. He tweets about Doge non-stop, grasping onto self-serving lies and conspiracy theories with a credulity so long composing it cannot help but be willful. He does under this profile names like Harry Balls, and we're all a little dumber for reading that. I hope you're getting used to this absolute screeching scree, by the way, because this is pretty much the entire article. And I particularly love, as later on as well, they go at how could this happen? How could Elon Musk do this to us? Has he no empathy with his opposition? He's dehumanizing them. Wow, you don't say. I wonder where he got that from. Fascists have always been clowns, but it's a 21st century innovation that's so proud of their juvenile behavior. How come your side always lost to the fascists then? I mean, the communists seem to have pretty much sucked at opposing them at every style and stop. Spain, France, Germany, Italy, hell, even the Soviet Union would probably have collapsed if it wasn't for a lot of aid from good old-fashioned capitalism. Weird. But, on the other hand, would a fascist regime, just allow this? Do you think this would happen under Hitler? Just asking. Just, curious. Unfortunately, many in online journalism saw this coming a decade ago with the emergence of the dumbest social movement in America and probably world history, GamerGate. Ah yes, the dumbest movement in world history, GamerGate, which is why, 10 years later, you're still raging about it. For those blissfully unaware of history, GamerGate was the first major crowdsourced harassment campaign of the social media era. On its surface, it was mostly a bunch of young gamers having a year-long tantrum because they didn't want women getting girl cooties on their video games. Wow, I am flattened by the charitable interpretation. It truly is amazing. These are indeed what we would like to call our honorable opposition. But those who watched it close at the time, it was a troubling portent of what turned out to be a full-blown fascist movement. Ah yes, always remember, children, fascism is when people not in the government start reducing the size of the government. Just saying. Doge owes everything to GamerGate. Well, actually, Doge owes everything to Obama, who created the governmental entity that was then turned into Doge. You see, all of those overreaching bullshit powers that you're complaining about? Well, you made those. And just as everyone was warning you back then, you shouldn't create these special powers and privileges because one day they will be used against you. And they said, ha, fascist. Well, welcome to that day. from its aesthetic to its tactics to its manpower, which largely draws on the same young men, now 10 years older, who are radicalized to the far right via social media. As journalist Max Reed pointed out recently, Musk's project isn't like GamerGate, but straightforwardly is GamerGate. Yes! GamerGate is destroying the federal government. I cannot get over how good that is. Composed of many of the exact same people, rehashing the same unjustified grievances, literally in between bouts of attacking federal workers as parasites. By the way, there's something like, 23 million federal workers in America? I'm not going to say that all of them are parasites. Many of them do actually valuable stuff. Firefighters, police officers, etc. But a lot of them? Does America need 23 million federal and state employees? I really don't think so. Musk and his fanboys also whine that video games are too woke and this justifies fascism. Yes, yes. Literally, this is your worldview. This is a beautiful... The point is you shouldn't have touched our fucking video games. It's the meme. I just wanted to play games. Why did you make me do this? Reality is better than fiction sometimes, and this is one of them. But what Doge owes to GamerGate goes much deeper than the gripes of those suffering arrested development. The propaganda, tactics, and strategy is incoherence of Doge comes straight out of that year of GamerGate sharpening their techniques through a sustained and still painfully stupid harassment campaign against feminists online. It was so stupid that you were utterly routed from every online space. Weird. And by the way, this too is actually true. Remember the previous article we talked about where they were like, oh my god, they took all of our tactics and used them against us? Yeah, because GamerGate was honestly us being extraordinarily naive, walking into this situation and going, okay, this woman banged a dude, and then he reviewed her video game very, very positively. This seems like bullshit. Could you not do this? That was pretty much the entirety of GamerGate. And then, as they started attacking us and more evidence came to light, we were looking at it and going, holy shit. What the fuck? Are you pushing some kind of Marxist nonsense into our video games? And that was what then followed, which led to the rise of the Trump-Falafel and now the destruction of the federal government. The first lesson of GamerGate was the propaganda value of bad faith. Bad faith? Oh no, not bad faith. That most heinous and unjustifiable of things. Like I said, we had good teachers. Reinforced by endless repetition, GamerGates were motivated primarily by two grievances: that feminists were criticizing sexism in video games, and crucially, that these same feminists seemed to have more sex than the GamerGaters. All of this can be boiled down to men just being misogynists and being, let me get this straight here. Envious of male feminists getting too much pussy. Although, to be fair, considering the number of male feminists having been convicted and accused of sexual assaults, maybe there's some truth to this. After all, hey, they're just saying sex. They're not specifying the woman can't be screaming at the point. I'm having too much fun with this. We are dancing on a dangerous YouTube line. This is no exaggeration. The whole campaign first started as target harassment of a female, now non-binary. Oh well, excuse me, I did call her a woman there. Video game developer whose bitter ex-boyfriend riled up a mob against her by telling him she had sex with lots of men. Indeed, in fact, he quite extensively documented the fact that his previous girlfriend appeared to be a weapons-grade slut. Details, details. It soon spread to targets of other outspoken feminists, especially those criticized video games. But the underpinning of sexual jealousy was always present. Hey, I heard your girlfriend is in slag. No, I'm not going to go down this line of thought. No. We've pushed the YouTube a little bit too far already. GamerGate realized quickly that the outsiders would not be sympathetic to the real complaints. Wouldn't they? Really, wouldn't they? Huh. That's strange. I could swear we won a US election and we're currently dismantling the federal government. Oh well. Which was, how dare women who have sex more than me make me feel bad about my sexist video game. I love how we're continuing this narrative. Instead, they invented a claim that female game developers were exchanging sex with journalism for good reviews. Could that be that whole thing that she fucked the dude who reviewed her video game? Wow. That's weird. What a leap of logic. It wasn't true, but ethics in journalism was credible sounding enough to trick gullible journalists into writing stories that cast GamerGate in a more sympathetic light than the misogynist witch hunt deserved. The misogynist witch hunt deserved. Okay, there we go. Ah, yes. I remember the countless optimistic, glowing and positive articles surrounding GamerGate back in the day. Oh yes, no, we were given a very charitable interpretation, which is why I believe the Wikipedia page still calls it a harassment movement. Oh yes, those silly journalists who were just too damn nice to GamerGate, that's the problem. Musk and his Doge bros are using the same tactic now with false claims that their goal is saving money. Wow. Firing federal employees who don't do any work saves money? Well, shit, I was just cheering it on because it sounded funny, but now you're really starting to sell me on it. This is absurd to anyone who looks even a millimeter below the surface, and not just because the touted savings are a lie. Musk's decisions aren't informed by research and analysis. They're vindictive, erratic, and fueled by outright lies and racist grievances. Yes, when they cancelled that gender-affirming care program to Indonesia, that was because they really hated the Indonesian skin color. That's why. That's totally why, right? Probably. Whatever targeting is going on is guided by Musk's desire to kneecap agencies that threaten to expose his corruption, but the parrot-like repetition about saving money is causing the press to amplify the lie with headlines that falsely describe Doge as a cost-cutting effort. Oh yes, the countless positive headlines around Doge. I mean, I've just been swimming in them so far. It's just, you can't get away with it. No, the entirety of the mainstream press appears to be in lockstep behind this, absolutely. The text of these articles often debunks the talking points by pointing out that Musk numbers are made up by most people don't read articles. All they get is a vague sense of this is cost-cutting effort, and don't realize that actually it is a fascist culture war dressed up as an efficiency costume. Again, remember kids, fascism is when the government grows smaller. Very important. Doge needs to be understood not just as a small group of people trying to destroy the federal government from the inside. From the inside, well, that's an interesting admission, but as a larger social movement that lives primarily on X, formerly Twitter, and is driven by Musk's cult of personality. The sea of braying donkeys screaming for the heads of federal workers on X is gross, but it does generate the energy and sense of momentum necessary for Musk's activities. The clamor is especially helpful in silencing Republicans in Congress who might otherwise object to the economic threats of mass firings and defundings in their communities. Ah yes, once again, the savings are a lie, but there's a lot of expensive positions that are threatened by this, and there might also be a lot of wasteful government spending programs on various government's pet projects and funding programs for local cities and institutions like, I don't know, universities that offer gender studies degrees, just, speculating here. But no, there are definitely no savings, as cutting these costs will simply just set the money on fire, I presume. The recruitment strategy is to build this crowd of haters, come straight from GamerGate, appeal to people by enticing them to take their insecurities out on your chosen scapegoat. With GamerGate, young men were encouraged to redirect their sexual frustrations considering my opening joke, you know what, I'll let you have that one. And social anxieties away from useful projects like self-improvement and toward bellowing hate non-stop at a group of women who would turn into symbols of everything the game gets fed they would never have. Fulfilling jobs. Hi there, journalist. Active sex lives and cool haircuts. Okay, to be fair. No, fair enough. It's a little bit outdated, I know, but I'm not a very adventurous individual, okay? The same thing is happening with Doge, except the scapegoat is no longer hip young feminists. I fucking love everything about this article. Though the Doge pros hate them too, but federal workers, the psychological projection of their own flaws and insecurities on these anonymous workers isn't subtle. The accusation that middle-class federal workers are parasites, frauds and thieves sound quite rich coming from people who seem to have nothing to do all day but scream invective online and often are knee-deep in cryptocurrency. Well, I mean, if they're knee-deep in cryptocurrency, they're probably not that poor. As for screaming angrily at people on the internet, have you seen your own writing, brother? Good God! Holy shit. This entire scree is that. Oh boy. Where was I? Oh, further down, I hope. There we are, yes. A market that appears only to exist for crime. Oh, and degenerate gambling. My God. Well, you know what? The gambling part? Partially agree. As Reed said, many people involved in Doge were recruited to the far right during GamerGate. It makes sense that the psychodrama of losers in their 20s that was aimed at cute girls. Oh, believe you me, I've seen Anita Sarkeesian and Zoe Quinn. I am not entirely sure that this qualifies. As these men age shifted its target, now they hate people who represent a successful middle age of having a stable job that means something to the world. Ah yes, a federal employee. Well, it is a stable job, largely because the federal employees themselves invented a large group of special protections that counted only for them and nobody else. True enough, the average GamerGater cannot claim to have gamed the system to quite that degree. Witch hunts are nothing new, but one way GamerGate innovated is by gamifying abuse and harassment. GamerGates act like they were playing a big video game, but instead of killing zombies or goblins, the targets were real people. Ah yes, the countless casualties of GamerGates. The rhetoric and logic of video games were all over GamerGate, except instead of the big boss being a monster in a castle, it was a woman in the world they hoped to break mentally through sustained harassment. Is it working? I mean, considering the length of this, I'm not sure. This attitude allowed GamerGate to create a moral distance from their actions by pretending it was all just a game. They could avoid dealing with the fact that they were doing real harm to real people. Because of GamerGate, you'll not at first anyone who opposes Donald Trump's agenda as NPCs, which is a gaming term for non-playable character, such as zombies or goblins you fight. Well, actually, any non-playable character. The princess, too. As right-wingers and forums have explained, they believe opposition to Trump inherently means a person can't do or think on their own, and that they only hate Trump because that's what they're told to think. Needless to say, dehumanizing people like this is a standard tactic for justifying abuse, harassment, and even violence. That's true. I wonder where we learned it from. God. I remember doing videos like 8 years ago going, look at this idiocy. The level of dehumanization of the mainstream media is levying against gamers. This is a terrible thing. You're going to make this normal. Now that you're going like, our opposition are mere vermin, fascist monsters and evil that must be crushed under boot. Sooner or later, those very self-fascist, evil vermin monsters are going to look at you and go, hey, fuck you too, buddy. And yet again, I must say, welcome to the current year. Musk is a big fan of calling anyone he disagrees with an NPC, such as in 2020 when he mocks opponents of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. To be fair, yes, the cringe idea of placing a flag in your bio is pretty damn cringe. As Paul Mann wrote in his Twitter last week, the logic allows Musk to tell himself and it follows that the suffering he brings down NPCs is meaningless because to him, our lives are without real meaning. Fire thousands of federal workers, cut off vital services, who cares? Those people don't matter. Ah, yes. See, here's the thing. I got in a little bit of trouble on Twitter the other day for posting a response to a tweet going, Musk fired this wildlife ranger from her position. She was guarding the far distant Canadian border and making sure that tourists weren't being eaten by bears. That monster. The idea being to dig down to your nerve roots and going, look at this poor woman, this individual. She has been fired. She has lost her ability to maintain her livelihood at the state's offense. Offense? Cost. And hey, that's an effective argument. It's been the one the left has been using by far the most, because you do go, that's a bit sad. But the simple, undeniable fact is, the United States government cannot afford this. It cannot afford, what was it, 3 million federal employees? And the US states cannot afford the other 19 million state employees. The United States is $36 trillion in debt. At some point, we simply just have to sack up, well, we, Americans, more correctly, and go, hey, how valuable is your job? Because whilst it would be absolutely lovely to have a park guard guarding the far distant borders of Canada against brown bears and their diet of tourists, can we afford that? Is that a vital service? Is that something we deeply and genuinely do require? Do we need to send money to gender surgeries in Paraguay? Is that necessary? And the answer is no. The answer, by and large, has to be no, until the United States is not $36 trillion in debt. Then you can start asking the question again, hey, it would be nice having a woman patrolling the Canadian border to make sure that tourists aren't eaten by bears. But until you reach that point, I'm sorry, no amount of tugging on the heartstrings is going to be effective. Musk's attitude was on full display Thursday at the Conservative Political Action Conference. He whipped out a chainsaw, the kind of goofy weapon you might see in a video game, except that it's real people whose lives he's ruining, whilst he grins at the camera. During his talk, he said weirdly, I'm not sure how much of the left is even real, as if half the country were nothing but. Well, again, you seem to consider it to be nothing but. Well, NPCs. He also insisted repeatedly that the important thing is having fun, while he fires people at random, takes away food and healthcare, and threatens the economic stability of the country and the world. Oh God, the world. Listen, Musk, the world is balanced on the back of this federal employee cashing in his paycheck every day. Oh God almighty. Give me relief of a Salon writer. But hey, it's all just a fun video game, right? Oh no, it's a hell of a lot more important than that. It's reducing the size of the government, a universal good across the entirety of human history. This is all depressing, but there is some hope to hang on to. It's important to understand that GamerGate failed. That's why I dedicated this entire massive-ass screeching, whinging article to talking about it and attributing Musk's cull of federal employees to it. Because it was a failure. Well, hey, I even partially agree with you, but you sure are doing a good job of proving me wrong. Thousands of people, mostly men, spent inordinate amounts of time screaming invective online feminists, but ultimately, they accomplished nothing. Absolutely nothing whatsoever. They didn't make feminism go away. No, that's, to be fair, I admit, we didn't make feminism go away. Intersectionality did that. Thanks, by the way. We were trying to eradicate feminism. We really were. We didn't like it, but then you swept in and went, no, there is no such thing as a woman. I have a penis, and I will pee in your exclusive places. Which did far more to eradicate feminism than we, with our recent critique, could ever have done. That's for sure. They didn't even make video games less woke. Well, again, judging by the current rise of Chinese gaming and the death of Western games, I don't know about that one either. Which is why they're still whining about it now. All they did was turn themselves into worse people. Telling yourself that other peoples are NPCs is a self-soothing lie. But it doesn't make it so. Other people have brains and can see this vile behavior for what it is. Polls show that Trump's approval ratings are starting to fall, and quickly. The more people see Musk's illegal assault on federal government, the more worried they get. And unlike a video game, he can't can't turn it off and make the mess he created just go away. Well, it truly is unfortunate that we have arrived at an age of such strident inhospitability, of such a lack of charity, and a tendency to view our opponents as nothing more than brainless NPCs. Truly, that is unfortunate. Like calling them reckless, evil, and fascist, just to name a few. You know, it's been a while since I've just been able to read a Salon article like this and just enjoy the flavor of the overwhelming quantities of sodium. It reminds me of the good old days of GamerGate. Thank you, Amanda Marcotte, senior writer at Salon. Until next time, I've been Arch. Thank you all very much for watching, and I do hope to see you all again soon. Till then, have a good day.